Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Democrats and immigrant advocates say that their fight is far from over, although they hit a big roadblock in their quest to provide a pathway to citizenship. In New York, it is estimated that hundreds of thousands of immigrants could soon benefit from such a policy that was attempted on the federal level. Washington reporter Kevin Frey spoke to one of them. He joins us now with the details. Good evening, Kevin.
Yeah, I've been hearing from lawmakers and folks that are advocating for this policy change throughout the day, and it went from disappointed to frustrated about the fact that this roadblock has now come up. And the one gentleman I spoke to is simply just looking for some stability in his life as he continues to face these questions about what his future holds.
There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that light just shuts off.
For Niraj Gautam, Sunday brought another twist in an ongoing roller coaster ride. He is what's known as a TPS recipient, temporarily protected from deportation. Originally from Nepal, he now lives in Queens. He longs for stability.
I have 18 months planned, but after that, I don't know.
For weeks, Democrats have pushed to include a pathway to citizenship for about 8 million people, many of them TPS recipients and young undocumented immigrants called Dreamers, in their large multi-trillion-dollar social program spending proposal, a plan that could pass without Republican votes. But Sunday night, the Senate parliamentarian who interprets the chamber's rules dealt a blow to this idea, rejecting its inclusion in the budgetary bill.
It saddened me, it frustrated me, it angered me. But make no mistake, the fight continues.
Democrats, like Senate Majority Leader Charles Schumer, say they're going back to the drawing board, coming up with alternative proposals to pitch to the parliamentarian. The top Republican in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, meanwhile praised the ruling.
Our Democratic colleagues cannot pretend that massive transformational policy changes are mere budgetary tweaks.
The parliamentarian's opinion comes as the future of Biden's large spending agenda is in doubt, because moderate and progressive Democrats are struggling to bridge their differences. Representative Adriano Espaillat's office says his New York district is home to between 5,000 and 10,000 Dreamers.
Would you vote for reconciliation if it wasn't in there?
I mean, I have to really discuss it with my colleagues, and this is so important to me in my district that I have to really consider this.
Immigrant advocates, meanwhile, argue they've waited long enough and say it's time for lawmakers to show some political will.
You need to do whatever you need to do to bring this home, whether that's overruling the parliamentarian, whether that's ending the filibuster, whether that's something else. Like, you got to do it.
Of course, let's provide a slight degree of a reality check here. When it comes to the Senate, the idea of getting rid of the filibuster, that's hitting a bunch of walls with several Democrats who are concerned about removing that precedent. And at the same time, the idea of overruling the parliamentarian, it's not impossible, but one leading Senate Democrat suggested the votes just simply aren't there to do that, Errol.
Well, they could overrule the parliamentarian by getting rid of her, right? Couldn't they replace that person?
They could also vote to, yes, remove her and replace her, as they have done previously. Of course, at the same time, I asked Adriano Espaillat about that, and he said, look, I don't want to wade into Senate business, but that is also an option. Is that going to be the top choice of their options? Probably not. They're probably going to propose something that could be a little bit smaller in terms of its impact, changing perhaps past immigration laws or trying to find a different path forward.
And so this was not a question of whether or not it would cost money to do this, because it certainly would have cost money. The parliamentarian made a decision based on other criteria.
Well, I mean, that's part of the discussion that has to go into this because of the fact that they're using reconciliation. It has to have something to do with the budget. But if you read through her description of why she rejected it being in there, there was also kind of this talk of, well, if we use reconciliation, then another Congress down the road, for instance, a Republican Congress, for example, could use reconciliation to step in and reverse the a pathway to citizenship that some of these people may gain access to, or other folks at that point.
So that leaves the Senate with the choice of needing to get a supermajority of sorts, at least 60 votes, in order to actually straighten out the plight of people like the gentleman that you interviewed.
Indeed. I mean, so if they're not able to find something that's perhaps smaller or a different way of doing the calculations that the parliamentarian may sign on to, which again, Schumer says they're going to come up with different options and bring them to the parliamentarian in coming days, then they would have to go through a different means, which would be a traditional order in the Senate, which would be needing the 60-vote filibuster-proof majority.
Okay.